Awakening doesn't end resistance, it invites it, not from within, but from the world around you. After clarity forms and discipline settles, something unexpected happens. Life pushes back, not aggressively, not openly, subtly. He noticed it first in people's reactions. The same choices that once went unnoticed now triggered discomfort. The same silence that once passed quietly now felt threatening, because when you change internally, it disrupts unspoken agreements. You no longer play the role people assigned you, and that unsettles them. Not because you're wrong, but because predictability is comfort, and you are no longer predictable. He didn't announce his change, didn't explain it, but people felt it, in the way he no longer over-explained, in the way he no longer reacted emotionally, in the way he no longer sought consensus. That calm created tension, because calm without submission is often mistaken for arrogance. Some interpreted his boundaries as distance, others called it coldness, a few labeled it ego. He didn't correct them because clarity doesn't negotiate with misunderstanding. He realized something important. Growth doesn't isolate you immediately, it isolates you selectively. The people who benefited from your old self will resist your new one, not consciously, instinctively, because your growth removes access to your time, your emotional labor, your compliance, and loss of access often feels like betrayal to those who depended on it. The world doesn't reward inner change instantly. It tests it through friction, through misunderstanding, through pressure to return to who you were. He felt that pressure in subtle ways, invitations that pulled him back into old habits, conversations designed to provoke old reactions, comments disguised as concern. You've changed, you're different now, you don't seem like yourself. They meant, you're no longer convenient. That realization hurt, because he never intended to abandon anyone. He simply stopped abandoning himself. But the world doesn't distinguish between the two. To those who relied on your availability, your boundaries feel like rejection. To those who thrived on your silence, your clarity feels disruptive. And to those who never questioned themselves, your self-awareness feels like judgment, even when it isn't. He faced a choice here: soften himself to maintain harmony, or remain aligned and accept friction. This is where many people compromise, not because they lack courage, but because social friction is exhausting. It's easier to blend back in, to explain less, to give in a little. But he had learned something already. Every time you betray alignment, you delay peace. So he stayed steady, not defensive, not aggressive, just consistent. And consistency reveals intentions. Some people drifted away, not dramatically, gradually. Messages slowed, invitations stopped, conversations shortened. At first he wondered if he had miscalculated, if growth was costing him too much. But then he noticed something else. The connections that remained felt cleaner, less performative, more honest, smaller in number, stronger in substance. He was being filtered, not punished. The world was responding to his clarity by removing misalignment. And misalignment always resists first before it exits. He also noticed resistance in systems. Progress slowed unexpectedly. Plans met obstacles. Momentum felt interrupted, not as a setback, as a test. Because awakening doesn't shield you from difficulty, it prepares you to meet it without panic. He didn't rush to fix everything. He observed, he adjusted, he refined his approach. Pressure no longer triggered urgency, it triggered focus. That was new. Previously, resistance made him doubt himself. Now, it made him assess reality. Is this obstacle revealing a flaw in my strategy or testing my commitment? That question changed everything. He stopped personalizing resistance. The world wasn't against him, it was neutral. It simply responded to energy, and his energy had changed. He wasn't seeking approval anymore, so approval withdrew. He wasn't feeding drama, so drama searched elsewhere. He wasn't chasing momentum, so momentum had to be built, not borrowed. That demanded patience, the kind of patience that isn't passive, active patience. continuing without immediate confirmation, working without applause, trusting alignment over feedback. The world pushes back hardest when it senses permanence. Temporary change is tolerated. Permanent transformation is challenged because permanence reshapes expectations, and expectations define relationships. He realized this phase wasn't about proving strength, it was about maintaining direction under pressure. Anyone can be calm in isolation. The real test is calm under resistance, and this resistance was shaping him further, not by breaking him, by sharpening him. Pressure does not arrive to destroy you. It arrives to expose what is real. As resistance increased, he noticed a shift inside himself. Not panic, precision. He became more selective with effort, more careful with energy. He stopped reacting to every obstacle as if it required immediate action. Some resistance didn't need solving, it needed enduring. That distinction changed how he moved. Before, pressure made him question himself. Now, it made him question his approach. Am I forcing this, or am I staying aligned? Is this obstacle a signal to adjust, or a test to persist? Those questions replaced emotional reaction. Clarity sharpened. He realized something unsettling. Most people confuse urgency with importance. They rush because they feel pressure, not because the direction is right. He slowed down instead. Slowing down gave him leverage. He began seeing patterns, which challenges repeated, which resistance faded when ignored, which friction increased when he stayed consistent. Resistance was information, not opposition. The world was responding to his choices, and response reveals alignment. Some things became harder because they no longer fit. Others became harder because they mattered. Learning the difference required patience. He also noticed who applied pressure, not critics, not strangers, but familiar faces, those closest to the old version of him. They questioned his decisions, doubted his pace, suggested alternatives, not maliciously, protectively. Their fear spoke through concern, because your growth threatens the comfort of those who love you, not because they want you small, but because they fear losing the version of you they understand. That awareness softened his reaction. He didn't argue, he didn't convince, he listened, and then he chose alignment anyway. That was the hardest part, choosing clarity without demanding agreement. That choice separated him further, but it also strengthened him, because integrity grows when decisions are made quietly. He also experienced internal pressure, moments of self-doubt, questions about timing, thoughts about missed opportunities. Pressure doesn't only come from the outside, it comes from memory, from comparison, from imagined timelines. He learned to recognize those voices, not silence them, interrogate them. Is this concern practical or emotional? Is this urgency grounded or anxious? That internal dialogue matured. He became less reactive to thought. Thoughts no longer controlled action, they informed it. This stage taught him restraint. Restraint is not hesitation, it is deliberate pacing. He didn't announce progress, he didn't defend decisions, he worked consistently, without emotional spikes, without dramatic setbacks, just forward motion. That steadiness confused some people. They expected reaction, they expected explanation, they expected fluctuation. He gave none, and that consistency became its own answer. He realized pressure often intensifies right before clarity solidifies, because systems resist reorganization, and he was reorganizing his life. Old patterns didn't dissolve quietly, they tested him one last time. Temptations appeared, shortcuts, familiar comforts, easy validation. He recognized them immediately, not as opportunities, as invitations to regress. And regression always looks harmless at first, just one step back, just one compromise. But he knew better now. Small compromises undo large progress, so he refused them, not loudly, firmly. Pressure began to change shape. It stopped feeling external. It became internal strength, the kind that doesn't rush, the kind that doesn't flinch. Direction became clearer, not because obstacles disappeared, but because they stopped confusing him. He knew what he was willing to endure and what he was no longer willing to tolerate. That line is where direction is born. Pressure had done its work, not by pushing him back, by pushing him forward with intention, justified. Now, they would be chosen. That realization changed how he approached each day. Discipline stopped being optional. Consistency stopped being negotiable. He understood something most people avoid. Once you awaken, you are responsible for who you become next. There is no going back to ignorance, only forward with accountability. He noticed how easy it was to drift. One relaxed day becomes two, one exception becomes a habit. Responsibility requires vigilance, not intensity. Vigilance. He built structure around his energy, not rigid rules, clear priorities. What matters gets time. What doesn't gets ignored. That alone simplified his life. He stopped multitasking his purpose. Focused effort replaced scattered ambition. With focus came solitude, not loneliness. Solitude, fewer conversations, less noise, more internal alignment. He realized something uncomfortable. Growth demands silence, not because others distract you, but because your old self argues back. In quiet moments, doubt becomes loud. Questions surface. Is this worth it? Will this pay off? What if I'm wrong? Responsibility doesn't eliminate doubt. It teaches you to act despite it. He learned to move forward without emotional certainty, only directional certainty. That distinction mattered. He didn't need to feel confident. He needed to remain consistent. Confidence would follow later. Responsibility also meant ownership. No blaming circumstances, no blaming people, no blaming timing. Every outcome now reflected his decisions. That truth was sobering but empowering. Because ownership restores control. If your choices shape outcomes, then change is possible. That realization fueled him. He stopped waiting for motivation. He designed systems. Systems don't care how you feel. They move you forward anyway. He woke up on schedule, worked without inspiration, rested with intention. Emotion stopped dictating action. Action began shaping emotion. Slowly, something shifted. Pressure became quieter, resistance less dramatic, not because challenges vanished, but because he expected them. Expectation neutralizes shock. He no longer asked, "Why is this hard?" He asked, "What is this demanding from me?" Responsibility reframed difficulty. Problems became instructions. Each obstacle refined him. He also noticed people changing around him. Some drifted away, some watched silently, some suddenly reappeared. Responsibility exposes relational alignment. Not everyone can walk beside growth, and that's okay. He stopped chasing validation. Progress became internal, measured by integrity. Did I honor my commitment today? Did I act aligned with my direction? Those questions replaced external metrics. That made success quieter but deeper. He accepted that responsibility is lonely, but loneliness with direction is better than company without purpose. He was no longer becoming something accidentally. He was becoming something deliberately, and deliberate evolution changes everything. Responsibility settled in, not as burden, as authority. He was no longer reacting to life. He was shaping it, one decision at a time. There is a moment in every transformation where going back is no longer possible, not because life won't allow it, but because you won't. He reached that moment quietly. No celebration, no announcement, no dramatic breakthrough, just a calm internal certainty. I am not who I used to be. And more importantly, I will not return to that version. This was not arrogance, it was clarity. Clarity removes nostalgia. The past stopped calling him. Old habits felt foreign. Old excuses sounded weak. Old fears felt outdated. He realized something profound. The hardest part of growth is not becoming stronger. It is accepting that you have changed, because change demands a new identity, and identity demands consistency. He could no longer live in fragments. No double life, no selective discipline, no situational standards. Who he was in private had to match who he was becoming publicly. That alignment was non-negotiable. This is where most people collapse. They improve temporarily, but refuse to become someone new. They want results without responsibility. He refused that compromise. He chose coherence, one standard, one direction, one self. That decision simplified everything. Life stopped feeling chaotic, not easier, clearer. He understood that awakening is not about knowing more. It's about tolerating less. Less distraction, less self-betrayal, less emotional indulgence. Standards rose, energy sharpened, time became sacred. He protected his mornings, guarded his focus, filtered his inputs, not out of obsession, out of respect for what he was building. He stopped explaining himself. Explanations are for those seeking approval. He sought alignment. People either adjusted or disappeared. Both outcomes were acceptable because this phase wasn't about being liked. It was about being accurate, accurate to his values, accurate to his vision, accurate to his future. He accepted the truth most avoid. Awakening isolates before it elevates, and that isolation is a test, not of talent, of commitment. Would he remain steady without applause? Would he continue without immediate reward? Would he stay disciplined when no one was watching? He answered those questions daily, with action, not words. And slowly, almost invisibly, momentum returned. Not chaotic motivation, stable momentum. The kind that compounds, the kind that doesn't burn out, the kind that builds legacies quietly. He no longer chased outcomes. He trusted process, because process became identity, and identity became unshakable. He was no longer seeking transformation, he was transformation. There was no finish line anymore, only evolution, no destination, only direction. This was the point of no return, where awakening stops being an idea and becomes a way of life, where discipline feels natural, where growth feels normal, where alignment feels necessary. And from this point forward, everything he touches will carry intention. Everything he builds will carry integrity. Everything he becomes will be deliberate. This is not motivation, this is awakening, and once awakened, you don't go back to sleep.